Himbayo, yo, wakima, dog, dog, hoga, haga, yakima, dog, dog, hoga, haga, yakima, himbayo, yo, wakima, dog, dog, hoga, haga, yakima, dog, dog, hoga, haga, yakima, himbayo. Yo, wakima, dog, dog, haga, haga, yakima, dog, dog, haga, haga, yakima, haywane. I may lose you for a minute. I'm going through a tunnel. Wanted to update on the stories that I've been hearing throughout my last 5 months there at Standing Rock, from the different relatives from all four directions that have been coming in and sharing their stories. And I think it's important to storytell. I want to share with you guys the stories that I was told there by different people on why they came. Be a second here as we go through this tunnel. Maybe you guys will be able to see this tunnel going through the mountains here. Just got through the blizzard, 9 hours of waiting on the side of the road, and behind diesels, different people who had no snow tires pushing out of the snow. What a blessing though, to have that snow and this much snow going around. We need that water. We need that moisture in the air. I want to say Bijan Numayarawa Nanishtahai, sending good blessings to all our relatives in the four directions. I want to start off with one of the stories I heard from one of our black relatives that came and stood by the fire and shared the reason why he was there at Standing Rock. I didn't catch his name, but what I did catch was his story, as he shared a story about why he was there, by the history of his family with indigenous people. And he shared that during the Underground Railroad, there was times where it wasn't as secure as it should have been. And many of the tribes stepped in and helped secure their travel or protected them. And a lot of the, at that time when they were in slavery, he says a lot of the black relatives had absorbed into the tribe, black Indians. And not everyone has come forward at a time where being Native American and black at that time, he said, wasn't a good time, for the discrimination came in from both areas. I thought that was a really interesting story to hear that. And he had his family had a tie to the stories and the songs. They just never practiced them. They never really talked about it in their family until Standing Rock came, where they felt proud to stand strong with all the relatives that were coming in, and to bring their story and their family history of black Indians to the community and to their community and their family. And their family, they traveled as a family there, and I thought that was a very powerful story. Can you guys hear me good? Aho! Let me know if you can hear me good. Hands free, yep. So the other thing is that another story, I heard was from a young man and his girlfriend who were neutral. They came to Standing Rock not to stand with the people, but to observe what was happening. They knew nothing about any indigenous issues. They grew up in a conservative family out in Cincinnati. They weren't a part of any traditions or anything that tied to tribes or anything like that. So everything they were learning was from Facebook and the videos that I was posting. And he said that it empowered them to come out and see what was happening there. And the movies has really misdirected his view on Native Americans. He said So they had a different view. And when he got out there, he was one of the young men that got arrested, him and his girlfriend. And they shared that it was upsetting to him that he said everything my grandpa and my dad had told me about Native Americans was a lie. And he says it's going to be hard to face them knowing that this is where I stand with the indigenous people here, and I'm going to take this back to my family. And I thought that was really powerful, and he wanted to know why. And I just shared with him, maybe the history isn't a good history, you know, in your family. For us, it's not a good history. Many of the atrocities that we're seeing was historical trauma. And what we're seeing today is current historical trauma. And that was way back in, I think, September. We had that conversation when everyone was just starting to come to the camps. So, beautiful conversations and dialogue with our relatives. Some of our non-native relatives, too, that were part of the Removal Act. And many of you guys don't know is they used to take our indigenous people into the city and assimilate them into civilization, or what we see now as globalization, and it disconnected them from their homelands, but they always come home. Their DNA brings them home. So we shared a lot of stories from our relatives who've been in the city, and this was an opportunity for them to re-indigenize their spirit and to connect back home. I did an interview with a Lakota woman who actually was there from Cannonball, and we were at the Pawnee tent, and she came down and hadn't been home for 35 years. And she shared her story that she had to come back and donate. She had to participate. So it was a very powerful moment for her to be back home, and it was a real heavy and sadness for her as well to see this is why she had to come home. But she was so empowered that she can share this story back with her children, where she came to help fight to protect the sacred, to protect the water, and that she was a part of this movement. And she just had to get here. She goes, I had to come no matter what, to get time off, and I got to go back. I'm sad to go, but I came back home, and it was a beautiful moment. And man, so many stories like that. Stories from journalists who ended up like being on a timeline and, you know, forcibly trying to get the story and wanting an escort. I think that was kind of funny, you know, like we were going to escort them around and take them to ceremony. And I don't know who's been doing that stuff, but you guys got to quit it. You know, Hollywood Indians, you got to quit that stuff, trying to give them Indian names and take them into sweat and ceremony. And they came down and shared their story. As I told them, you know, I said, I encourage you to put down your cameras and put away all those technologies and walk from fire to fire and talk and connect with people. And some of them that came back was really thankful that they did, and they were able to come back and get the stories accurately. And I met many of them, many that actually stayed. They stayed there. They decided to stay there. And they didn't leave until like Christmas time. And they were there in months and listening to their stories and seeing them all around. And it's good when you see them, because, you know, at a point when you don't know the new guy that shows up, he looks like Dapple, or looks like a Fed employee or something, you know, which we did see a lot of them guys. But, you know, Indian country's small, so when we see natives come around, we know that who's who. And when we see a new guy come around, we kind of get suspicious. And when we can't find and he's got one friend on Facebook and he's trying to friend you, then there's a whole other issue. These guys are not fluent in social media, but that's what's been our advantage, is we see that in all the apps and tools that help us identify who these guys are. We vet them through the social media process, vetting process. So I found that was interesting to give them the 101 in the media tent. Many of you guys who came and saw me in the media tent, we got the protocols on when and when not to film, why we don't film our children, and if you do, you get the permission of the parents and the waivers, and to accurately share our story. I also shared how, you know, Fox News could not tell the truth accurately, no matter how many times we held their hand, and we want to believe that they can tell the truth, but they somehow would twist the whole story. And it just didn't make sense. So these are the stories that I came across. I was just thinking about on my way up, and I was thinking about a beautiful song, and I thought about the songs I heard in the morning time with the morning prayer, and I heard the morning blessings, and sometimes it was a female, and sometimes it was a male. Sometimes it was an older elder and an older female elder. So it was back and forth. It was powerful to hear that every morning. It was a blessing. These are the stories I shared with my auntie back home, and I pulled over in Little Rock and shared them with my family. The beautiful content that I can absorb there to help feed my spirit. And then I had an emotional time about, I don't know, 30 minutes ago. I was listening to one of the songs, and I just got real emotional. Didn't even realize it. I was singing with the song, and all of a sudden I got emotional. And I realized that, the healing hasn't completely resonated within me at all. I'm not healed from what I've witnessed in current historical trauma. And I'm very strong where I'm at, but I'm still vulnerable when I think about how I watched our people be hurt. And as I was filming, I remember crying several times that I felt like there was nothing I can do. And when I went home, I spoke with a lot of relatives that said the same thing. And they cried when they saw our people being hurt, standing there praying. And it was hard to see, it was hard to witness. And I get real emotional when I see that, when I watch that footage. It's really strong, and it resonates really fresh, and it doesn't simmer out at all. So I realized I need some healing along the way, and be around good, healthy people to help me heal, so I can continue to share our story. I'd say that many of you guys who got there, sanitation and showers were very important. And we'd go down to the marina and shower, and it would be just packed, and the inside would be all flooded out. And it was pretty interesting, the things that we would do to be in a shower. And I was thinking, that's kind of rough when I was going through the shower this morning, or in the morning time. But now having a shower is essential because it's so cold, and you don't want to get sick out there. So these are the stories that we're seeing as self-reliant. And I think I've seen so many beautiful things in the front. What always sticks out, what I try to share with all our relatives, is that our women stood strong in the front. And